change the direction of a blessing. In fact, a mother's love will redirect a blessing. We come to this text and we discover that Jesus has just explained to a parable. And this parable talks about the difference between the things that enters your mouth and the things that exit your mouth. In other words, people say you have unclean hands. Jesus said just because you eat with unclean hands doesn't mean it defiles your body. He said because what you eat resonates in your stomach. The problem is what comes out of your mouth because it originates in your heart. It's what comes out of you that defiles you, not what goes in you. He began to tell them this, and as he finished this parable, Jesus moves forward. He tries to find a place of solitude. He walks away from there and he goes to rest. And while he's going to rest, a woman calls his name. She says, Master, son of David, have mercy on me. She tells him that her daughter is vexed with the devil. But Jesus answers not a word. He says nothing to the woman. He keeps on going about his business. Help me, somebody. Then I discover something. The Bible declares that it was a certain woman who interrupted him. This woman had no name, but she cried out from afar. And upon gaining his attention, she fell down on her knees. She fell down at his feet. This woman again had no name. Matthew Gospel says that she was a Canaanite. She was of the Amorites. She settled on the coastland of Palestine. In other words, she was a mixture of a Canaanite and a Phoenician. She was a mixture of a Philistine tribe. In other words, she was a half-breed. Now watch this now. Mark's gospel says she was a Syrophoenician woman. She was a Greek woman. She was a Gentile who appeared to speak Greek, but she was a descendant of the Phoenicians from the Syrian side. Can I tell you, regardless of who this woman was, and regardless of where she was from, it was apparent to them that whoever she was a half-breed. What did that mean? It meant that she had no rights. Understand something. In these particular times, women were taken care of by their fathers. And then, if it wasn't the father, it was the firstborn child. Or it was their husband. And if the husband passed away, then the son took over. If all the son dies, then the next of kin male took over. The problem was women had no authority. They had no power. So here we are. Here's this lady, and she has this problem. In fact, women couldn't own property. They had no rights because they belonged to the man. Y'all will get in a minute. As such, this woman defiled all protocol. She said, I understand protocol. I understand the fact that I don't have anything. I understand the fact that I'm not a Jewish woman. I understand that. But she found herself in a desperate position. She had no support. She was a Syrophoenician. She was a Canaanite. She was a Greek. She was a Gentile. She was a half-breed. She was a nothing to them. She was not a member of the house of Israel. In fact, she wasn't even a Jewish woman. But this woman violated the code. She violated the code because she had a need. She had a purpose. But watch this. She didn't even have the right to be there. But she was there. By law, this woman wasn't authorized to open her mouth unless she was addressed or given permission. But by law, she didn't have the right to talk. By law, she couldn't even speak to Jesus. But that didn't stop her. It didn't deter her, because even though this woman knew her odds, she believed that her cause was worth dying for. Every now and then, we ought to have a cause that's worth dying for. But more than that, she had a faith that was bigger than her problem. She had a faith that was bigger than her adversary. She had a faith that was bigger than her obstacles. She had a faith that said, I don't care what you say. I have a purpose and I have a need. And whatever it takes, I'm going to see my king. I'm going to see this man called Jesus, because Jesus is a healer. The Bible says she comes to this place and she cries out, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is vexed with devil. This woman had a purpose, and she was determined. She was tenacious, and she was desperate. Can I tell you something that you got to be desperate for? Sometimes you got to be tenacious. Sometimes you got to hold on in spite of the shaking, in spite of the kicking, in spite of the screaming. You got to hold on. You got to be like a pit bull sometimes. Grab hope and not let go. This woman would not let go. And that question, why was she so desperate? She was desperate because her daughter was in need of healing. She took a chance by penetrating the presence of the Jews. She took a chance because she was a nobody. She took a chance because she was a half-breed. But can I tell you something? A true mother has no boundaries when it comes to her children. A true mother will step out and do whatever is necessary. And regardless of her disadvantages, she was a mother. And a mother's love will always trump all cards and trump all challenges and all types of defeat. Her child's life was on the line, and she believed that no matter what she went up against, and no matter who the powers to be were, her life was worth giving away if it would save her child. So she took a chance. But can I put a pin there for just a second? Watch this. All the blessings that you receive, that I receive, are not necessarily destined for us. You get that? Some blessings come by default. Preach, dude. I'm doing the best I can. Some blessings come because of your persistence and because of your faith and because of your tenacity. Some blessings come just because you happen to be connected to someone who's blessed. Some blessings come just because you are in the right place at the right time. Some blessings come because the one you're connected to is blessed. Right. In other words, it's not destined for you, but because you are there, you get the blessing. Right. This woman knew that Jesus had a blessing. Now watch this now, because these blessings are not authorized for you. Those were not authorized for her to receive, nor was she destined to receive them. In fact, she was not even in a category to receive a blessing. And more so than that, she was not authorized to be in the presence of the one who was given the blessing, or even the one who was receiving the blessing. She shouldn't have been there. Sometimes you go to places you shouldn't be because they're giving out blessings. And they know you're not supposed to be there, but because you showed up, you got blessed anyway. Because you showed up, they gave it to you. Because you had enough faith to believe, if I just get there, I know I shouldn't be here, but if I get there, maybe I'll get some too. So here you are in this place and begin to understand something. She shouldn't have been there, but her faith moved God. Her faith moved Jesus, and it caused the blessings to change. It caused a shift. It had to change directions because it wasn't destined for her. The faith she had, Sister Bess, was a faith that allowed her to access to a place that she wasn't qualified to be in. Her faith gave her access to a place that she didn't have credentials to be in. It gave her access to a place that she didn't have the right card to get in. She didn't have a Diners card. She didn't have an American Express. She didn't have a Gold MasterCard. In fact, she didn't even have a card. But she showed up. She didn't have a special members card, members only card. She didn't have it. But she knew that wherever she was going, whatever was there is what she needed. And she didn't care that she didn't qualify, that she didn't have the credentials. She said, I'm going anyway. All right. Because my daughter is in need. This faith she had is the kind of faith that we need, because this faith changes our seasons. It changes the season that you're in to a season that don't belong to you. It allows you to gain a harvest when you shouldn't get a harvest. It allows you to benefit anyway because you showed up. It gives you favor when you don't deserve favor. In other words, it'll give you favor outside of your time. It allows you to penetrate the private clubs and organizations of the elite as a nobody. And it redirects what is intended for them to you. Y'all just missed that. It gives you unmerited favor. I know you're wealthy, and I know you're supposed to get this, and I know I don't have anything, but because of my faith and because of the Lord, I say, sir, if I just get over here, I'm going to get some anyway. You can push me back if you want to, but you don't have enough strength to stop me. I'm coming anyway. You can knock me down, I'm going to get back up. You can kick me, spit on me, I'm still coming. Because what I need you have, and I believe if I have enough strength and enough faith to keep on coming, I'm going to get it. This woman had to keep on coming, and because of that, she got unmerited favor. Can I tell you that your tenacity and your faith can cause God to shift things around so he can bless you even when it's not your time to be blessed. He allows you to access things that you're not authorized to. You know, you don't have the combination to this. You can't put your eyeball to the thing and it reads your retina. No. But because you show up, there's something that causes the computers to get all screwed up and messed up and confused, and the computer opens the door for you when it shouldn't even open. Why? Because of unmerited favor. When you have that kind of faith, the Bible says that this woman cried out, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. She cried out because she was a distance away from him. And because she was such a distance away from him, she had to get his attention. And see, by calling out, she closed the gap. You understand? In other words, if she were close enough, she wouldn't have to call out. But because of the distance, she had to call out to him, and her voice closed the gap. God help me, somebody. I'm trying to go somewhere. In other words, she gained his attention. She closed the distance between them, and instead of having to chase after him, a mere loud call to him stopped him in his tracks. And when he stopped, she ran to him and fell at his feet. Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. See, you got to understand something. We don't know where the woman was. We don't know where Jesus was. He could have been passing through a crowd to get this destination. And maybe she just knew or heard of that he was in the place. But when she called his name, no matter where he was, he had to stop and look around. And she saw who he was and where he was. And she ran to him. Can I tell you something? People had heard about Jesus. They had not seen Jesus. And but yet, and even though there was a multitude sitting around him, he's sitting on a hill. They hear him preaching, but they're too far to really know who he is. But when she called his name, when he stopped, she said, that's got to be him. And she ran to him and she fell to the floor and she said, Master, have mercy on me. And so by her calling him out, it allowed her to get closer. You got to understand that every now and then crying out to Jesus will stop him in his tracks. And if you have faith, it'll make him give you what he's not supposed to. Woo, preaching, I'm doing the best I can. He'll give you what you're not supposed to. So she drew closer to him, and what happened now is now she's closer to the blessing and the blesser. See, when you close that gap, you're now closer to the blessing and the blesser. He's got the blessing, and he's also the blesser. You got to close the gap so you can get close to the blesser and the blessing so you can receive it. And this is what the lady did. But watch this. But her faith got God's attention, you know, when her circumstances did not. Let me make sure you got that. Your circumstances don't always get God's attention. The lady came there and she had a situation. She had a condition. She had a requirement. But it didn't get Jesus' attention. He looked at her and he told her, hey, look, why are you coming to me? As I paraphrase. I have anything for you. She said, Master, have mercy on me. My daughter is vexed with the devil. It's not my problem. Your condition will not always get God's attention. But your faith will. God help me somebody. I'm trying to help somebody. Faith will get you a blessing when your condition will not. Faith is a powerful thing, and when you work it, you don't have to worry about your condition because whatever situation you're in, if you believe that God's going to change it, he's going to fix it, you're going to stand it because his word says so. If you stand on that faith, God will change that thing. That's why your condition, sometimes when it doesn't do what it needs to do, you need to have some faith. Well, help me somebody. So she finds herself in a situation calling on Jesus, and watch this. Watch what Jesus does. He doesn't even acknowledge her. He doesn't even respond to her. He's oblivious to her presence. Even though she called his name. She doesn't rate to call his name. She doesn't rate to be in his presence. She doesn't rate to speak to him. She's not of the house of Israel, and she's a woman. The blessings were intended for the house of Israel only, not for outsiders, especially not for half-breeds. Now watch this. She's not authorized. She didn't have the right. She didn't have the right connection. She was not a part of the right club. She was not part of the right sorority. She's not part of the right family, not part of the right race, not even the right gender. But she came. Yet she has the boldness to demand access by encroaching the sacred space of Jesus, infringing on his time. She was determined, and no one could impede her. No one could stop her. She was determined to get through and reach the healer, even if it meant losing her life because her child was sick. You got to get that. She violated every rule. She crossed every line because she didn't care, because she said, even if it costs my death, I'm going for my child's sake. She moved with vigor. She was determined that Jesus was going to heal her daughter. And she was persistent with her faith. And because of that, Jesus blessed her out of season. Here she is. Jesus doesn't acknowledge her. He doesn't answer her. What happens is the disciples comes over because she's making all this noise. Watch this. She doesn't disturb Jesus. She disturbs them. Sometimes the person who has the blessing is not disturbed by the noise. It's the ones who feel entitled that's disturbed by the noise. Don't have anything to give you, but they're disturbed because they are part of the club. God help me somebody. In other words, sometimes you got to disturb the other folk in order to get to the one you need to get to. Sometimes you got to disturb the elite folk who don't have anything to get to the one who's got everything. She's calling him. And the disciples come because they're disturbed. They're upset. And when they come over, they say, send her away because she's disturbing us. You know, the problem is, Sister Harris, that she didn't look like them. She didn't smell like them. She didn't act like them. She didn't talk like them. She didn't walk like them because she was a second-class citizen. And for that reason, they didn't want her around. But you got to understand something. Your standards and your class has nothing to do with your faith. All right. And when you're determined to get to Jesus, nothing can stop you. And what happened? Because you got to understand something. She was not a part of the house. And Jesus finally responds after the disciples come. He finally responds. And he says to her, I was sent here to feed the lost sheep of the house of Israel. In other words, you're not a part of the house. I cannot give you the food I'm supposed to give to the select people, the elect people. In other words, You're just a dog. I can't give you the food of the people because you're just a dog. You don't rate to come to the table. But when Jesus said that, because of her tenacity, because of her mental prowess, because she was so sharp, she came back to him and she said, that's true. But even the dogs eat the crumbs from the master's table. Yes. God, you got to hear what I'm saying. But even the dogs eat the crumbs from the master's table. Her faith brought on grace of the Spirit of God. He woke up, wait a minute. This woman is not deterred by what I say, but she's telling me that even as a dog, I have the right to eat the crumbs from his table. And Jesus couldn't do anything but respond. And he looks at the woman and he looks at her and he said, great is thy faith. Can I help you here? You need to understand that crumbs don't fall accidentally. In the atmosphere, they're deliberately falling. Crumbs fall because there is an abundance. You're not trying to drop the crumbs, you're trying to eat it all. But because it's an abundance, they fall. Because you can't get it all. Crumbs become part of the overflow. But the challenge with it, the good thing about the crumbs is that the same ingredients in the whole piece is also in the crumbs. And that's why you got to understand, Jesus, I don't care if I can't eat at the master's table, but just give me some of the crumbs. Because by receiving the crumbs, I'll still get the blessing. Because I'll still get the power that's inside the whole, because the same is in the crumbs. And sometimes blessings are received by snatching the crumbs. Can I tell you something? You better be careful about the people around you, because some of them will come to snatch the crumbs. And that same crumb that they snatch, give them the same power that you have. But I'm not there yet. But watch this. While the Bible calls her a certain woman, they had, watch this, they had understanding of each other. While the Bible called her a certain woman, they both knew each other's identity. They were identified by two things. She was identified by her condition, and he was identified by the fact that he's a healer. The problem was that her identity and her condition disqualified her from the blessing. Don't miss that. Her condition and her identity disqualified her because she was not part of the house of Israel. And her condition didn't matter because she was a half-breed. But the problem was, in spite of those two things, she had a thing that qualified her. And the thing that qualified her was called faith. Yes. She believed and had enough faith that Jesus could do for her daughter, even with the crumbs from the table. And because of her faith, the blessing she needed preceded her to the place where she needed it to be. Let me say it again. Because of her faith, the blessing she needed preceded her to the place that she needed it. In other words, because of her faith, Jesus didn't have to go to her daughter. But by the time she got to her daughter was already healed. You hear what I'm saying? Yes. Can I tell you, when you have a mother's love that would do anything for their child, and they have enough faith, they don't have to have Jesus to go there. Jesus said, great is thy faithfulness. Be be it unto thee that your daughter is healed at this very moment. In other words, because of her tenacity, because she pushed forward, her daughter got healed. This woman had faith and she loved her child. She went to a place to get healing, but watch this, there was no healing there for her. She went to receive something that wasn't intended for her. In other words, where she went there and it wasn't supposed to be delivered to her because it was going to somebody else. But I need you to understand something, that if you have the right faith, God will redirect the blessings intended for you to her. In other words, what is directed for me, if your faith is stronger than me and you need it more than I, God will redirect it because he's looking at your faith.
Right now.
A mother's faith. So then, this faith yielded her a blessing out of season. Faith qualifies you even when you're not qualified yourself. Jesus said, it's not for you. But faith said, I'll get it anyway. The law said a packet can only be opened by the addressee. God said, I'll redirect the packet and put your name on it. In other words, he created an environment for a redirected blessing. And it was only because of faith. Her faith penetrated the perimeters. Her faith redirected the blessings. Her faith moved God to another level in her life. Her faith got the attention that she needed. Her faith got her respect. Her faith got healing for a daughter. I don't know about you today, but I'm glad I serve a God who looks at my faith.
Yes.
And in spite of my condition, he will bless me anyway. In spite of what I look like, in spite of where I come from, in spite of what I smell like, if I have enough faith to believe, he shall do it for me. I don't know about you, but I'm glad today the blessing was meant for somebody else. But because of her faith, it was redirected. You need a faith of a mother's love, because a mother's love creates a faith that says, my child will survive. Right. Even if I have to die. I'm closing this thing, but I need to understand something. You've been waiting for a long time, but the problem is